Let's wrap up Animation Explosion 2018 with Ferdinand. Going into this movie, I knew little to nothing about the book. In fact, I didn't even know this story even existed, so when this movie was first announced, I did a bit of research and realized, oh wait, this was actually based on a book. And from the initial trailers that I saw, it looked interesting, at the very least. It was done by Blue Sky, who is not exactly the same quality as Disney or Pixar or even DreamWorks, but they've done some good movies before. Hell, they proved it once with the Peanuts movie, maybe they could do it again. And is Ferdinand a good movie? Let's find out. The movie stars Ferdinand, played by John Cena, and no, I'm not doing that joke, so shut up, who doesn't love fighting and instead loves flowers and peace and all that good stuff. But one day he's taken away from his owners, and so now when he gets to this bullfighting, he has to try and make his way out with a few colorful characters. So going into this movie, I expected that there were going to be some things that were kind of skipped over and not explored that well, and I figure it's best I start this review off with the negatives. First off, the main relationship that they have in this movie is the relationship between Ferdinand and the little girl, but the problem with this relationship is that it's not used very well. At one point in the movie they just kind of forget about it. They don't show the girl again, they don't really cut back to her. There's not even a scene where she's like, you know what, I'm gonna go find him, I'm gonna go find Ferdinand. They barely cut back to these two even bonding with each other. Yes, there's plenty of moments where it happens, but there's not enough to actually sustain as the main relationship within the movie. Which is a shame, because at the beginning of the movie, it's actually really heartwarming. They have this whole backstory about when Ferdinand was a baby and how he's adopted. He loses his father, which is pretty heartbreaking. So when we actually see these two on screen, you think they're gonna dive into it a lot more, but by the end of the movie, we don't really get enough of that. There are several times in the movie where it feels like it wants to be timeless and interesting and heartwarming, but for the most part, they're just playing all of these modern pop culture references and pop songs. And did I mention there's a scene where the bull is literally twerking? Yeah, that's an actual scene in the movie, I'm not even joking. The humor is also really weak. There are several times where they have these references which don't really make any sense and are just gonna date this movie by a long shot, and some of the characters can be pretty annoying, particularly the goat character. I get what they were going for this character, but man did she get on my nerves so easily. The animation looks nice, I mean it's Blue Sky overall. Their animation techniques isn't really gonna reach the standards of DreamWorks or Pixar, but this movie does still look nice. John Cena does do a good job as Ferdinand. I mean, I'm sure someone else probably could have done the role, but for what he had to deal with, I think it's good enough. And aside from the goat character, there isn't really anything about this movie I thought was really annoying. It plays itself safe most of the time. And the weird thing about this movie too is that it has a sort of charm to it. Like there's this whole dance battle sequence which is really stupid and it's not really necessary, but for some reason I just had fun with it. I just thought it was silly and I thought it was funny, it was charming. There's also these horse characters which I really like, and there's this one innuendo that they spout out. I thought that was really funny. And then there's this other bull character who's animated really funny. It almost reminds me a lot of the Looney Tunes cartoons where he has this really stiff movement and his whole body moves except for his head. It's really funny. It's just weird how they can pull off this kind of animation. I also really liked the message of this movie, is that even if you're a boy, you don't have to grow up being tough and so mean. You can grow up being a very nice and friendly person. I mean, look at me and tell me if you think I'm tough. So on the whole, Ferdinand kind of fails in some areas. It doesn't really touch on the main relationship a whole lot, and some of the characters can be pretty annoying, but for the most part, I was genuinely charmed with this movie. I think it's got a very charming aspect behind it. I think some moments can be funny, I think at points it's really heartwarming, the animation looks nice, and it has a really good message. Ferdinand is not a movie you should go out of your way to see, but if you're curious, I definitely recommend you give it a shot. I'm sure you're really gonna like this movie, and I think a decent movie is a nice way to end off the animation explosion for 2018. So, now that all the animated movies are out of the way, how did this year hold up in general? It's been kinda weak. Sure, there were some animated movies I liked, like Coco, Cars 3, and Ferdinand, which I just talked about, but for the most part this year's been kinda depressing. Most of the animated movies this year were just average or crap. Though I guess that's better than 2013, which is in my opinion one of the worst years in animation history, especially in the realm of films. And that's pretty much all I have to say for the animation explosion. Let me know what you liked and disliked this year. Thank you all so much for sitting with me throughout this year, and be sure to join me next year when I talk about all the animated movies in 2018 when Animation Explosion returns. I hope you all enjoyed this franchise, and I can't wait to review more animated movies in the future.